I know 4th of July is right around the corner, but these quick, fun DIYs are going to help your celebration be just a little more special. And this is part of the Last Thing Thrifted collab. I'll tell you more about that in my description box, but let's get started crafting for the 4th of July. Thank you so much for watching. This is Okay at Home DIY, and I am Zaina. My first DIY I am creating is some firecrackers out of this fence post. Usually you see it by a 2x4, but I'm using like this rounded fence post. It needs to be cleaned up just a little bit and then having those ends cut off. I do cut these into 5 inches increments, so it's 10 inches long, 15 inches long, and 20 inches long. Once they are cut, I do take them to my sink and a little bit of bleach and I scrub them to get all the mildew off and the dirt off of them. And then I take my drill, I cut some dowels down, and the dowels that I had were actually a little bit bigger than my drill bit that I had, so I have to auger it a little to make the drill hole a little bit larger. So I just stuck at it and I kept sticking my piece of dowel in to make sure it would fit in there, and then it was good. So my dowels are actually cut at an angle to kind of look like it's, like a wick. So when I come inside, I'm going to paint the 20-inch cobalt blue. I'm going to paint the 10-inch a bright red. And then lastly, I'm going to paint the 15-inch white by Waverly Chalk Paint. So once those are all painted, I set them aside and they dry. And I'm going to work on my wicks. Now the wicks are cut down dowels at a diagonal. I use my miter saw for this, but it's actually a little bit better with the jigsaw. They kept popping off my miter saw, so that's just like a thought for that. Next, I'm taking some washi tape and making a stripe around the dowel. This is just to give this a decorative flair. Once I have those good and rubbed down, I am going to take my cobalt blue. This is Hippie Crafter paint. And I'm going to just paint the whole dowel except for the bottom, because where I'm holding it, and it's going to go in the firecracker, so that doesn't really need to be painted. And do that with the red, and then if it gets on a spot that I don't like, I just take my little picker tool and scrape that off. Next, I'm going to take the last one and do a kind of a combination of the two. So this already has the washi tape on it, painted it red. Going to use my heat gun to dry it, come in with another strip of washi tape right down the center of the first lines that are already there. So I'm not covering it up, the strips from before, I'm going right in between them. And then I take my cobalt blue, cover that on top. Then I'm going to take my heat gun and make sure that gets nice and dry. Once that's nice and dry, go ahead and start peeling off the tape. It kind of gives you like barbershop vibes, the barbershop pool vibes, but I really like them for the 4th of July because this has all the colors on it. Place those wicks inside the firecrackers, and this is how they turned out. Like I said, this is part of the Last Thing Thrifted collaboration. This is an open playlist linked into my description box below. Please go check out all the hosts' channels that are linked there as well. You'll get tons of inspiration for thrifty items. This picture frame I have had in my stash for at least 2 years or more. I did pick this up from the Dollar Tree, like I said, 2 years ago. So it's a little picture frame that says "No place like home." So I'm not going to do much to this. I am going to zhuzh it up a little bit. And first I want to try to take off the UPC. Sometimes these are just so hard to get off, but I really wanted the back to look nice. So I'm sticking to it with some heat gun and a scraper. And I really work on this to get all that off. Once it is all off, I actually scrape at the glue a little bit so I don't feel it at all. So now that the glue is completely off, I am just going to take some black chalk paint. This is Color Ink by Waverly. And I'm going to go ahead and paint the back. Now I'm going to start with kind of an outline of the back because I don't want to get it onto the front. And I remember when I was a little girl, my mom always told me to outline it first while I was coloring, and then you can color in the middle and you're free and you won't color outside the lines too much. So that's kind of what I was remembering here, doing an outline and then maybe coloring in the middle, just like I did with my color pages. Now this is completely sped up. This is really fast motion, but I really wanted to try to get those edges without taping the front. It was a little glossy, but I feared putting tape on it, it would rip off the picture. So I'm going at it just a little bit at a time, really working on the edges. Now with that gloss, it did save me just a little bit. So when I wiped the paint down, I could actually wipe it on off and it wouldn't stay there. It would wipe off and clean off easily. So I go ahead and get all my edges with this ink chalk paint. And then when that is all done, I'm going to come in with a wet wipe and just clean up those edges just a little bit. I didn't mind the black kind of outlining the front. That kind of helped make this look a little more nice and crisp. It elevated it. Next, taking a small flag, cutting it down to 6x4, just like the picture, sliding it in, and it is done. There's no place like home. Love this quick 4th of July craft. So I'm taking a wood tag. This was in my stash. It's craft wood, and I am taking this piece of frame. This actually was a frame inside a frame. It had some matting around it. It was actually glued to it, and I wanted to reuse it. So I put those down first to see where I needed to cut this craft wood down, and I'm taking my craft knife and a ruler to cut this as straight as possible. Once I got everything lined up, I did do the cuts, and it took me 9 cuts going straight down to get that. Next, the longer edge is going to take me about 12 cuts to get this all the way through. It seemed like it would cut through some of the area quicker than the other. This is, it seemed like it was kind of like a plywood. This is a craft wood. It's really thin, so you just take your time and cut it through or cut it down, and you will cut through it. So like I said, these frame pieces had some glue on them from being glued to a mat to make it like larger. So I'm using my heat gun and my scraper tool to heat up that glue and scrape it on off. That is not needed there anymore, and it would make it look really ugly if it was still there and I didn't scrape it off and paint it over it. Now this whole thing could probably get skipped and make this whole project quicker if you just used a picture frame, but I did not have an 8x10 picture frame. That's the size I wanted to use, and I had these in my stash, so I wanted to salvage them. So next I'm just going to go ahead and adhere these to the frame, but I wanted to mark where they went first because I wanted to see what the size of the inside that I had to work with, and it was actually around 6.5 and 9 inches that I had to work with for this picture. So I have some corkboard from Dollar Tree, and I cut it down to those specs, but I end up not really using it too much. So we're going to go ahead and hot glue these all down. I ended up using the corkboard, but not cut down to that size. So I glued down my frame pieces here to where they're all nice and lined up, and I had a little bit extra, so I went ahead and, or hangover from the back, so I went ahead and used my straight edge and cut that off. See, so I cut my corkboard too short, and there was some areas showing, so I just decided to go ahead and cut my corkboard down to where there was a white frame around it, and then it framed my flag nicely, trimmed up that part of the flag that said made in Italy, and so I just had the United States flag. I'm going to paint this with Waverly white chalk paint and give it really a good coat all the way around. I didn't mind if it was just a little distressed looking, but mainly wanted it to be all white. Now I used a ton of white paint there, so I am going to go ahead and just scoop that up and put it right back into my jar and let that dry. Once that's dry, I'm coming in with my corkboard. I'm hot gluing it down first, just trying to make sure it's nice to the eye. Now, I just eyeballed it. I like kind of the characteristic of things not cut super straight. And then I'm going to go ahead and hot glue down my flag. And this 4th of July craft is done. Super cute, so pretty. And you know what? You can have it out all year long. You don't need it just for 4th of July. It can be out for Memorial Day, Labor Day, Veterans Day, and any day. I picked up a bunch of poker chips at the thrift store the other day. My son talked me into it. He's going to use them for stands for his modeling. So I'm like, what do we use these poker chips for? We're going to make little miniature candy. So you just take some poker chips, some scrap fabric. I'm taking blue and white ones because they go with my fabric. And I am gluing 3 poker chips together. It's kind of given me a thick piece of wood to work, or a thick piece to work with. It's going to be like my little miniature candy. So I have 4 white, 4 blue, and I'm coming in with my scrap fabric. I cut these down to 5 inches long, 4 inches wide, and I'm using my pinking shears to give it that edge of it just a little bit of a crinkly cut edge. And so I do that with some red and white fabric and some blue and white fabric. So my red and white striped fabric here was just a little bit too short, and I wanted to still be able to use it, but I wanted it all to be a little bit longer. So here are my little fabric swatches that I'm using. And so what I do is I hot glue the poker chip down to the fabric and then, overlap it like a present. And then I'm taking some baker's twine that's red and white, and I go ahead and tie the ends so they look like cute little candies. I forgot what I wanted to say there for a second. Once those are tied, I go ahead and I clip the strings off. I do that for the blue ones as well. I pick the blue, so in case that poker chip shows through just a little bit, it goes with the fabric. And use some blue and white baker's twine. You can get baker's twine at Hobby Lobby. I did pick up mine at Dollar Tree, but I don't see it there regularly anymore. So your best bet would probably be going on over to Hobby Lobby, clipping off those ends, and this is one last quick 4th of July DIY. So this was a magnolia wreath I picked up at Goodwill, and I picked it up for $4.99. I thought that was a really good deal. So this evidently is a fall wreath, but I'm gonna bring it on back to summer. Taking out all these little picks that are for the fall, and I will place them to the side because you bet I'll be using them this fall to craft with, because I'm not going to waste that. So now I'm get this down to just the magnolias on the wreath, and I kind of fluff it up a little bit to make sure there isn't any gaps, and then I create a sash. I've been seeing these on Pinterest, and I wanted to create my own with this really wide ribbon. So I actually end up cutting way too much. I think about, I don't know, 2.5 feet is probably best. I don't know. But I cut the ribbon down, and I thought it being so wide, it could really kind of pull off as a sash. And I make sure my ends are nice and even, and I'm going to take the left one from the back, pull it over the right, and pull that tight, making sure that you can see the front of the ribbon in the back as well as the front of the ribbon in the front. And so once I have that all situated like a sash, I want to bring in a couple of 4th of July flags, or American flags, for the 4th of July. I think this is so cute, so stately, and you know what? So easy, right? All the so's. Get my flags in there nice. Since this is a grapevine wreath, I know I didn't say that in the beginning, but that's just a grapevine wreath, so you can just stick them right on in. I'm going to trim down my ribbon. It is just a smidge too long, but that's okay. I'm going to put that ribbon in my material stash, and I will use them for something in the future. Just going to go ahead and cut these diagonal, and then this cute little 4th of July DIY upcycle hack, whatever you want to call this one, is done. I think it's so pretty, and I can use my magnolia wreath all year long. What do you think of these even quicker 4th of July DIYs? Let me know which one is your favorite down in the comment box below, as well as I'd love to invite you to subscribe. The playlist in the description box below, please go check out, and all the hosts. I know I'm going to say it again, but thank you so much for watching, and until the next time, everyone, you have a good one. Bye.